All right, everyone. We are excited for our very first round table. That's right. We are pleased to be joined by Rob and Ryan, the boys of the Talkin Buds Podcast. You can check them out on Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you're into the Instagram or YouTube, you can also find them on those platforms as well. Talkin Buds Podcast. Guys, welcome to not another Puckin Sports Pod, where we discuss various topics, the topics du jour, if you will, of the sporting world. But of course, because Frankie and I are diehard Leaf fans, we never neglect talking about them whenever we have a chance. And there's no better chance than right now while the Leafs are on a 5-day break. And it's a good thing because they've played a ton of hockey lately and may have caught up to them. So let's get into it. The Leafs, they've had a tough stretch of late. And all great teams go into tough stretches because it's a long season. Now, I'm sure we're all rational Leaf fans. We're not at the point where this is the 18-wheeler jumping off the cliff, but there are some causes of concern. So I'm going to break it to you guys. If there's one or two things over this last stretch of play that is of most concern to you, what would it be?
I'll let Ryan let you go first.
I'd say just the things that were making them so successful early was those attention to details about breaking the puck out, good neutral zone play, attacking the forecheck a little bit more, and especially kind of the blue line being shored up and that first pass being a little more crisp and the ability to get out of your zone. And I feel like ever since that Edmonton series, all that's kind of gone to waste. They're giving up tons of odd man rushes. They got guys pinching and guys not in the right position. So I think it's just the attention to detail that they were so good at the start of the season. And now I feel like it's kind of gone back into like old Leaf mode where it's like they're not playing like they did in those 3 games against Edmonton, which is what every Leaf fan is craving for. Consistency like those 3 games.
And I wanted him to go first because I had a feeling he was gonna point that out, and I wanted to take the obvious one. The goaltending has not been good enough. Here's my take on Freddie. I said this on our episode yesterday. Has he been awful? No. Is it all his fault? No. But do you trust him to help you win a playoff series at this point? Also, no. So it's at a point where you watch him, and I love the way Ryan puts it, is he gets sniped on at least once a game. At least once a game, there's a goal where it's like he just flat out gets sniped on. And you don't have to make all the saves. You just have to make the ones that matter. And that's something he's really struggling with right now. And if you look back to those games against the Winnipeg Jets, there were a few backbreakers in there where they were down a couple goals and made it within one, and then the Jets would go down the other way and score, and you're just sitting there like, oh my God, like, come on, buddy. So Freddie Anderson, I think I speak for a lot of Leafs Nation with that concern.
The penalty kill has been
atrocious.
But funny enough, it coincides with Freddie because when you look at his save percentage at 5-on-5, it's decent. But then his save percentage on the penalty kill is atrocious. He just hasn't been able to come up with that save on the penalty kill. And what do we say about penalty killing? Your best penalty killer is your goalie. So he's definitely got to step it up. And do I trust him in the playoffs? Oh, God. My opinion was that they should have moved on from him after this past season because we've seen enough instances where, he's had some great games and some great glimpses, but those back-breaking goals at the worst times, like, if you played hockey and your goalie lets in a muffin, it's just so demoralizing. So to be able to come back from that, man, it's tough.
Yep.
I want to just touch on what Ryan said. Put my coach hat on. That's kind of what I do here. I think he hit the nail on the head. When you're talking about a team, you're expecting crisp passes, you're expecting breakouts, certain setups, the way they come out of the zone, generating speed in the neutral zone. If you're a team like the Leafs who are hell-bent on possession and you can't make those quick outlet passes and you're a possession team, you have a big problem. Because if those passes are not connecting and you're going backwards or you're regrouping, that's you're now prone to turnovers in your own end, turnovers at the neutral zone. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, it's kind of been hard not to notice how many odd man rushes have been going back the other way, especially with Muzzin and Hall. You're losing count. So, and what you don't want to do is turn into a dump and chase team, because you're not that team. You only have maybe a hand. I can probably count the number of guys on one hand that can dump. When you dump the puck and those guys are going in to get it. It's pretty much Hyman. Hyman.
Maybe
Mikheyev. You know what I mean? So, this next few days, Keefe has to get back. From a coaching standpoint, and say, guys, what has made us successful? We have to get back to that, but we also got to battle, because they've been also losing, puck battles in the corners, on their end, in front of the net, missing assignments. So kind of a lot of these things, maybe not the average fan would see, but they're glaring to me, because as Ryan alluded to, it's what they've cleaned up, or what they thought, they've turned into that new Leafs team that they've done for the first, 25, 26 odd games. This last stretch is just, they've just missed those easy assignments that we've thought that they've cleaned up so much. So that was my thing. The whole odd man rush is a real concern for me. And that pairing of Muzzin and Hall, if you guys have noticed as well, Bogosian's been now taking reps on that pairing as well. So, what are these now pairings going to look like, or these lineups moving forward? Because that has Keith thinking, you know what I mean? So That's just kind of my observation from that side.
Do you think that fatigue has anything to do with the mental lapses and, being outworked in puck battles? I mean, they played 4 games in 6 nights this last stretch. They played 8 games in 14 nights. You had cross-country travel in there, different time zones, clock moving forward. The schedule has caught up to every team this year. I'm sure that has had some effect. And that's not an excuse. I mean, it is an excuse, but it has to have played an effect on them.
I think for sure, but every other team is in that same boat. Yep. So it's like, I've said that a bunch of times where I'm like, oh my God, they play, it feels like every other night. Like this last, there's a Leaf game on every other night, but it's like that. All the other teams are in that exact same boat. So on the one hand, it's like, yes, I sympathize. You got to be exhausted. You got to be dog tired. Like the game on Sunday, they flew into Ottawa that day. And I don't care if it's a 10-minute flight. That's got to suck. Getting off an airplane. How does everyone feel when you get off an airplane? Brutal. Right. And then you got to go play a hockey game. So listen, I get it. It's probably not easy, but every other team in this league is in the same exact boat.
For sure.
Yeah. I also feel like they were just overall due for a run like this. I feel like this division is things can just switch on a dime in this division. That's the thing I've been most shocked about, is one team one week could be unbelievable, and the next week they're firing their coach, they're firing their goalie coach in the middle of a game. I think this season's really been amazing because of how fast things can switch, and I think it was about time that they kind of got into one of these stretches, regardless of their defensive player, whatever's going wrong. I think they were just overall due for this kind of a stretch to kind of level out the playing field, because things were going great for them for a while.
I wouldn't even say great. I would say historic. They weren't off to a great start. They were off to a historic start.
Yeah.
That I didn't think was just. Listen, I think the Leafs are a good team. I don't think they're great.
Oh, here he comes. He's hulking up. He's hulking up.
No, and everybody was looking for excuses to say, hey, they're off to this great start. Well, division stinks. They were looking for every excuse to discredit the Leafs. And my excuse it wasn't even an excuse. It was just, they're not this good. They're a good team. They're not this good. Just like in this last stretch, I don't think they're this bad. They're not a 5 or 6 loss team. So I just think they're a really good team. Good to really good. Not a great team. What do you guys think?
I would definitely agree with you on that. I think we all got a little bit ahead of ourselves on that run through February there. But when you look at it, I like the good to really good. I'd put them in the really good category. There's still some areas like we've talked about, the mental lapses and the goaltending that prevent them from being great. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I just, I just think that it wasn't going to be that good. And I think the narrative of them having, 2 weeks ago, they were going to the Eastern Conference Final and lose to the Tampa Bay Lightning because they had no competition. And just look how fast that's gone out the window. And it's never here. It's never this good, never that bad. It's always somewhere in the middle. And Leaf fans have such a hard time of finding that range of being too positive, being too negative. And
it's because we all suffer from 18-wheeler PTSD. We all suffer from it.
It's happened too
We
often.
never learn our lesson, do we?
No.
This year's different. This year's different.
Yeah.
In listening to your episode, I thought you guys brought up one really great point. The Leafs are really good at being front runners. They're good at scoring the first goal, playing with the lead. It lets them handle the puck. Lately, they've been getting behind way too often, digging themselves a hole. I mean, look at Sunday. Jeez. You get off to not a bad start. Willie almost scores with 30 seconds in. And then your backup goalie just lets in a couple of brutal goals, and you're playing from behind, trying to dig yourself out of a hole. And they just looked terrible that first period after that. So that's one thing that concerns me, which was something that happened a lot last year. They'd get behind, and then they'd have to rely on like some miracle comeback to get back into the game. They need to erase that, I think. And yeah,
100%. Like they're built to be a front running hockey team. When you play the speed, skill, possession type of game, you're built to get out and jump out to big leagues. And when they get up a goal, 2 goals, whatever, that's where they want to be. They're playing loose. The other team's trying to chase them.
That's right.
That is their comfort zone. And I said on the podcast, and every time I do a show with anyone, I love to just get in a shot at my Green Bay Packers. I have a lot of experience watching front-running sports teams. So I've seen this many times.
It's funny you mentioned the Green Bay Packers because Bobby, before you guys got on, had just granted them the NFC North Division title for the upcoming
It's yours.
season.
Oh,
It's all yours.
yes.
It's all yours.
Yes.
The
Oh
only
my-
team that could catch you guys signed the red rifle, and that's it. It's over. So,
Oh man, I know. And I'm not gonna lie, like for the last week, not to get off on a side Packer,
It's all right. We do everything here, man. It's all right.
but I'm not gonna lie to you, for the last 2 weeks, I've been like, the Bears are gonna get Russell Wilson, and this is gonna get really interesting. And the just coasting to the division title is not gonna be a thing this year. And then it comes out today that they've went and signed Andy Dalton.
oh
And I'm like, oh boy, Bears are gonna bear.
yeah, congratulations again.
Well, you got a smorgasbord of different teams on this podcast because you got a Broncos fan, you got a Steelers fan, and Joe. You got obviously you're a Packers fan. I'm a Colts fan. So if you know, Ryan, are you a Packers as well?
Shocking.
Oh no!
Oh,
I don't
no.
want to
Oh, no.
talk about this.
Oh no. This is
I don't wanna
you
talk
guys
about
are
this.
opening a can of worms here with Ryan.
I was you were going around the table there, and I'm like, please don't point at me. Please don't point at me.
He's got to be a Jets fan.
No, I'm a Brady guy.
Oh,
Okay, I know a few of those. It's all right. It's
I'm
all
a
right.
Brady guy.
He is the greatest.
I just grew up with him as just being the best in the early 2000s, and I just, I wasn't conditioned to love a certain football team, so I naturally, when I turned on Madden 2000 on N64, I just naturally gravitated towards the best team and the best quarterback and all those video games. So it's just I've just been a Brady guy my entire life, so that's just the way I've followed it.
And
But-
I will say, I always say to defend him, both he and my mom have watched every Brady snap since he came into the league. So
Yeah.
they've been a couple day oneers.
Yeah.
So there's no
there you go.
bandwagoning happening.
That's cool.
It's tough to defend yourself, though. I'm not gonna lie.
It is.
It is tough. I try just to not mention it. I'm like, don't ask me.
have you tried the TB diet yet? The TB12 diet?
Buddy, the barrel I'm rocking right now, I'm doing the opposite TB diet. I'm doing the PBR diet right now.
That's
So
a good one.
that's the diet I'm on.
The diet of podcasters.
Yeah, exactly.
This is vodka, by the way.
Yeah, there's no avocado ice cream in my house.
But I kind of agree with you guys. When the Leafs fall behind, I will say this though, they're actually kind of a scary team playing from behind though. I feel like they got a Patrick Mahomes element to them where the game's 4-1 on Sunday. I'm like, this ain't over. This ain't over. And they seem to make it interesting.
Well, and
Yeah.
that's where coaching needs to come in, and that's where Keefe needs to help get them to a place where it's because you can see it on them, from their history. You believe that? I don't know if they believe that. Like, if you look down the bench, like when they went down 3-1 the other night, like you look down the bench and it's just a bunch of this.
Yeah.
Right? And like that's where coaching has to come in and being like, guys, we're never, with our offensive firepower, we're never out of a game. Ever.
And I do know what you mean, though. They have had a couple spurts where they can come back in a hockey game, but the reason why they're not great when they fall behind as well is because they're such an offensive happy team, they can lead to like pinches and reckless play, and if it doesn't end up going in the other net, then it's a 2-on-1 odd man rush, like you mentioned earlier. Like the amount of odd man rushes they've given up the past couple of games have just been insane. So it's like it can either work out in their favor, they can come back, or they really look bad because they can't stop pinching and making reckless plays.
I know hindsight's 20/20, and obviously the game is over and stuff, but I kind of made a point that I was kind of surprised with a 5-day layoff why Anderson didn't start that game. And I get the whole thing about, Hutch is such a good guy and a good soldier. You know what? It's not about that. It's about banking 2 points. You're going up to, you have Anderson who's going to have 5 days of rest, right? And you should beat Ottawa. That's fine. I get it. But, you went into that decision. The worst thing that could have happened. And now you're playing catch up. Is it easy to say that Anderson would have had those 2 shots? I'm fairly confident to think he would have had those 2 shots. It's a different game. And for me, knowing that 5-day break was coming, should have been right back in the net. It could have been a short memory, and you're right back in there and work on the stuff you didn't think you did on Saturday night. That should have been Anderson's game. I think that was a key mistake by Keefe. But that's just my opinion because now they lost the game, so I guess it's easier to say, right?
I got to disagree with you, Frank, and I'll tell you why. Freddie didn't really deserve to play back-to-back. It's not like he was lighting, playing incredible. And also, they probably earmarked that game for Hutch ahead of time. And to be honest, before this game, Hutch hadn't actually been that bad.
Exactly.
Did you see how quick they pulled him?
Oh, I know.
Did you see how quick they pulled him? That doesn't seem like a guy who has a lot of confidence from his coach. I'm sorry. Maybe you pull him after the period. No, that was probably the quickest pull I've seen of a Leaf goalie since Sebastian Santomo. Okay,
I've never
Keefe was like, I've seen this movie before.
That's enough. And don't tell me Dubas is standing up there today saying, well, we have a lot of confidence in Anderson, Campbell, and we like Hutch when he's in there too. Bullshit. I would not be surprised if another goalie's coming back. I will not be surprised.
Yeah. And they got to get Jack Campbell back, and he's got to stay healthy. Like it's a two part thing here.
Yeah.
Like Ryan's taken to calling him the Band-Aid on our podcast because he just like
I don't know what he's doing.
It's the truth though.
Like, he's the perfect guy. He's exactly what they want. Like you look at all this drama with Hutch. It's like going into this season, Hutch was your 4th guy on your depth chart.
That's right.
And now he's backing up Anderson, and because Campbell can't stay healthy.
Yeah. Comes back for one game, plays great, and then he's on the shelf for another couple weeks.
Yeah, and I correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm pretty sure in LA he also had a hard time staying healthy too. Like I'm pretty sure he's been a Band-Aid guy.
I don't know if that was they were concussion problems over like I think the knee is something new, and I think to credit to him, like he did get hurt on a specific play if I'm not mistaken in Edmonton. So it's not like it's been a nagging injury. It's just I think it was an isolated incident that did this. So it could have been a sprain of an MCL or something like that. So it's not like we're just hoping now it doesn't become a chronic injury. But I think what was happening with him in LA was the concussion side of it. And knock on wood, he's come out of that. But you're right. He's a glue guy. And I also think, believe it or not, I think they play different in front of him. Going back watching that Calgary, I think there's a different element there. Not that say they don't want to play for Freddie, but I think just there's a different mentality when you have somebody in net and you look back behind your shoulder and say, oh shit, him, or it's okay, we got Soupy in net tonight, let's get at it. You know what I mean? I just think there's different aspects when you know who's in net.
For sure.
Yeah.
So other than John Gibson, who do you guys prefer for your trade deadline acquisition for the Leafs? And in today's press conference, Kyle Dubas actually mentioned that they're preferring to go with the rental route, which has gone against his MO of usually acquiring a guy with term. But it kind of makes sense. They don't want to have to protect the guy for the Seattle expansion draft. Plus, they have some guys that they'd like to re-sign, I'm sure, in the offseason, Zach Hyman being the main one right there. So who is your deadline acquisition that you think fits well? I know on the podcast you guys were really pushing to add a defenseman, which goes against what a lot of what we've heard about them inquiring about adding another winger or possible centerman.
Well, I'll let Ryan take this, but I want to say up until our episode yesterday, I was in they should go and get another forward camp, and then I thought he made a really great argument for going out and getting another defenseman. So go ahead, Ryan.
Listen, I think you got to do what the best deal is. Like, I don't want to be I'm not hard in the camp where like you need to grab a defenseman. It's just sometimes I get a little frustrated when I hear the names Taylor Hall, and it's like, me personally, it doesn't do it for me at all. Like, it just doesn't. And I just don't get giving up a Sandin, a Robinson, or whatever to get that for a rental guy who's going to play a handful of games in the regular season and maybe make an impact in the playoffs. And maybe getting a deal after exploring the options. It's not going to be easy. Like, you're going to have to pay a premium, and it's all about what you're willing to give up. Like, the $1 million question for me is what are they really willing to give up? You know, like I'm not 100% sure I have that like picked out yet of what Kyle Dubas is prepared to give up to add to this hockey team. I'm not sure what it is yet.
Especially if it's for a guy who's a rental and you're only going to have him for such a short period of time.
I know.
Well, before I jumped on here with you guys, I was scrolling up and down Twitter and I saw someone reported that the only one that they consider an untouchable is Sandin.
Correct.
Which surprised me because if you ask me, Robertson is the untouchable.
Yeah, no, it's fair. It's fair. I think if I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to if I remember the logic behind it, it's because knowing that they're probably going to lose. Most likely, they're saying if they lose a defenseman in the expansion draft, they have they like Sandin to kind of transition in, but not only that, potentially losing Morgan Riley after next year's free agency as well, which I still think that's going to happen more often than not. You need somebody to step into that role as well. Yeah. So I think more, and I'm not agreeing, I'm just saying from what I understood of the logic behind it. But to your point, what do they have coming up down the pipeline in terms of forwards other than Robertson? That Marlies team are a bunch of AHL contract guys, and like they used to have a pipeline coming out from the OHL. But as you know, Dubas likes to get these experiment guys or undrafted guys that he put on the Marlies. And you look at that roster. Okay, I know they got SDA coming down from Europe because I think their team's almost done. Dergachintsev there, and Hallander, the guy they got in the Kapanen deal. Couple that with Robertson, there's not much in the forward pipeline either. Right. And Amarov, right? Yeah, and Amarov. Yes. So but he's still there. What I mean is like coming up from the Marlies up to the Leafs, there's not much there. At least on the defensive side, there's a little bit more there with Sandin, obviously Liljegren, Hallowell, so Kral. There's pieces there on the back end. So I can understand your point as well. And Robertson can score.
He looked really good. He looked really good in the bubble.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would even go as far as to say he's going to be on this team on Friday. They've called him up. He's skating with them. He's not with the Marlies right now. So that could be a potential. I see him in the lineup very soon. So I don't know if that's a guy you're getting rid of either.
Right.
Something's not right here. Dubas is playing pretty coy today. Obviously, he's not going to put all his cards out on the table. We all know that. But the fact that he says we're aggressively trying tells me that they've got some pans in the fire, and it's probably something that we don't see coming.
And if there's a year, I keep saying this, if there's a year that you're pushing all your chips into the middle, it's this year.
Has to be.
This is your clearest path to an Eastern Conference final.
Sound familiar, Bobby?
Well,
so true.
Sound familiar, Bobby?
Right. Hey, you got to swing at some point. Take a swing. But for me, it's like I look at their forward group and I'm like, they got Matthews, they got Marner, they got Nylander, and Tavares, all guys locked up. They're good at forward. Like their defense, I would say the same. I would say Sandin is the one untouchable, and it's also much harder to find elite defensemen, I find. So to give up a guy like Robertson, I think he can be replaced. I'm not saying he's not good, but I feel like he can be replaced much easier than it would be to replace Sandin. And it's just hard to find defensemen. And like these guys said, Morgan Riley might not be here in 2 years. So who's the guys? Do you trust Lundgren? Do you trust somebody else stepping in that role?
Yeah.
Just who do you believe can be added from the trade bait board right now that's going to make just like a big difference for them? Like I just can't I can't like pick out that guy.
You're right.
Like, you know, like that's what I'm having a hard time with.
Personally, for me, it's more the position where I think, you know, we're all looking at, okay, a top six, not for anything, but I might be in the minority. I don't think they need help in the top six. I honestly think it's the bottom six where they need to keep a lead, where you're moving a guy like Engvall, who, you know, I'll be honest with you, he's made a nice transition to center. He played a little bit of center in the Marlies, never played it with the Leafs. He always came up as a winger. He's transitioned nice, but I don't really feel comfortable with him as a guy you're trying at center if you're trying to win a Stanley Cup. You want to go with a bona fide guy who can play in your bottom six. That's the type of guy I think they should be looking at as a, you know, you can play center, you can play wing on the third line. If there's an injury, they can move him up. That won't cost you as much as a Taylor Hall, as a Michael Granlund, as a, you know, Raquel or Forsberg. It won't cost you those guys to get, I don't think, but it may cost you a B prospect. That's something you're willing to take. And I bet you by grabbing a guy like that, it might make it easier to offset Kerfoot's contract as well, because it has to be coming money in, money out if you really want to get that, you know, that next level guy like maybe like Eric Halla or, I don't know, Kyle Palmieri or something like that. You know what I mean? So those are the type of guys, the second tier guys, I think would work.
I think that makes a lot of sense for sure.
But getting a top six forward, I love that. The 3 games against Edmonton where they looked unbelievable. Their third line was unreal. And I know I love having Hyman up in the top 6 because the dude, I am the biggest Zach Hyman truther. The guy is awesome.
Yeah.
You can put him on the first line. You can put him
You're
on
not going to get any arguments from us on that. Yeah.
No.
With him on that third line, it makes such a world of a difference than when you have Kerfoot there or somebody else. So adding a top 6 forward allows you to drop him down. And then if you want to put him up later on in the game, you want to switch things up, you have that option. But I like having him on that third line because he can take over a game. He's the play driver on that third line when he's there.
100%.
Yeah, Zach Hyman is just imagine just being named a coach of like a rep hockey team when you go to your first tryout and you're just watching the first little scrimmage and there's just a little Hyman out there. You're like, this kid's my captain.
Oh, yeah.
I think we've done that, Rob. I think we've done that.
Oh, man. I got to eat so much crow. I hate doing this. I got to eat crow because I never liked Hyman. Man, he's turned into a really good player. He's turned into a really – I got to – yeah.
Dude, he's so good that if I had to choose between keeping him or Riley, I'm keeping Hyman because we don't have another player in the pipeline like him.
Oh,
there's no other Zach Hymans like in the league.
It is essential that they re-sign him. It is essential. I don't care what shy of touching Matthews or Marner. I don't care what you do. You got to keep Zach Hyman. That's how highly I think of Zach Hyman.
So would it be safe to say now that the core 4 is now the core 5? Like Hyman should be in that conversation. It's not just Matthews, Nylander, Marner, Tavares anymore. I think Hyman's that 5th guy.
100%.
And I think of core, he's there.
100%.
Like every Stanley Cup winner, you need a guy like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Washington, when Tom Wilson got a lot of money, everyone scoffed at the idea of Tom Wilson getting that money. He deserves it because there's so few players that can impact the game like Tom Wilson can.
Yep.
You could call him dirty or whatever you want, but he impacts the game. Zach Hyman's the same thing. He is the new age Gary Roberts. You know, he doesn't body check guys from behind, but you put a puck in the corner, that guy's coming out with the puck every single time. Yeah. He is an unbelievable forechecker. There's not so few like him in the league. You have to keep a guy like that.
Now, hypothetical. Would he not be your ideal third line center?
I don't care if he's at center or the wing, but when he's on that third line, man,
think about it. He takes faceoffs in the defensive zone on the right side. So he's already done well with that. His faceoff percentage has gone up. I just think he's a defensive-minded player as well. He's got the speed to play. Okay, maybe his playmaking skills aren't the greatest, but you don't need it as a third line center. But if they're really looking for that guy, I think if you're trying Kerfoot on the wing and trying him at center, you're telling me Hyman doesn't have that same capability?
You
Right?
just blew my brain up with that suggestion, Frank. I've never considered that before, and it's not a bad idea at all.
You've set the precedence with Engvall and Kerfoot. Why not try Hyman in the middle? I think he's ideal.
Yeah.
Hey, you found your Kadri replacement. Similar
There
type.
you go. So speaking of the
Oh,
Leafs' future
no.
third line center, let's talk about their second line center, because I know listening to the pod, you guys were a little critical of JT, of his play this season. I know when we signed JT, anybody would have signed him to that deal. And to go back and say that you wouldn't have, you're just bold-faced lying to yourself. But right now, he's got 26 points in 30 games. It's not terrible. And if he was playing incredible and not putting up the points, we'd be complaining that, you get paid $11 million. You got to put up the points. So is it a matter of he's just got to get his game going? What does he got to do more of to get there? He just doesn't look like a dominant player anymore. Is this what he is now? And we just have to live with it? Because you're not moving him. He's got a no-move clause, and it's a lot of money. So
I'll take that one, because I kind of teed off on Johnny a little bit on our episode, and it was my hot take. And I just want to, before I go off here, I just want to say I love John Tavares. I have made a point of not criticizing his contract, because I absolutely agree with you that any one of us would have pulled the trigger on that deal 3 years ago, whatever it was. I love that they made him captain. I know that there were Riley Matthews, whatever, were in the running too, but I love that they made him captain. But I think it's really been highlighted by the fact that Matthews is not 100% right now. So he's not able to play to the standard that we're all used to Austin Matthews playing. Just look at their power play and where he's currently slotted in their power play in front of the net. And that is when you look to your second line elite $11 million center to step up and pick up some of the slack. And I just don't feel like he's doing that. And I think a lot of people say, oh, well, he came here to play with Marner, and he was great when he was with Marner. And it's sure, but William Nylander has been pretty damn good. I think William Nylander, since the Edmonton series, Nylander definitely does this. There's no one's arguing that. But I think since the Edmonton series, he's been pretty damn good.
maybe their best player.
Yeah.
Other than Zach Hyman.
Yeah.
Even Hyman.
So to me, it's just, it's kind of like Freddie. I don't think he's been absolutely terrible, but I don't think he's been good enough.
Yeah, I think and you look at his career as a Leaf, it's he is a point a game player or pretty damn close to it. And it's that's pretty damn good. It's be a point a game player in the NHL is pretty solid. And he's just a great guy. He's your captain, but it's just every once in a while, especially when things aren't going well, it's you just go on your phone, you look at Leafs salary cap, you take a look at the number, and you're just sometimes I just want a little more. That's it where I am with him. Sometimes you just want a little bit more.
I noticed with him, he's so strong on his stick. He's so strong winning battles, but he also takes a lot of stick penalties because he doesn't move his feet a lot. So he gets the hook, he gets the trip, he gets the slash. It's not for his lack of work ethic. I think we expect a little bit more explosiveness. We've seen glimpses of it, but it's almost like you got to motivate him to do it. And that's the last guy I thought you'd have to motivate in that, wearing a blue and white shirt. You know what I mean? And I think you're bang on. We look at the salary, but isn't that typical Leaf fans? We look at Tavares' salary and say, we expect more. But as Ryan mentioned, he's a point-a-game guy. Well, how about doing the same thing for Nylander, who has, there aren't a bunch of not many guys who scored more goals than him in a calendar season. And you look at his contract and you're telling me that's pretty good value for his contract. So we can't say one about one guy and not about the other. You know what I mean? I think it just, I don't know what it is about the two polarizing guys right now, but we have good value in one guy and maybe not getting enough from another, but it's the same situation. And I think with Tavares, we all knew in year 6 and 7, maybe 5, but more 6 and 7, that contract was going to be an albatross. But I still think we're starting to see a steady decline with that. So we got to put him in a chance to succeed. And I've always thought having Marner with him was going to keep him with that chance. And Nylander's playing better, but I think his best bet for longevity and proving that contract, I still think hopefully Marner is that guy that's got to be beside him. I think he's kind of the straw that stirs the drink there.
So are you in favor, Frank, of splitting Matthews and Marner up?
I am. Yes, yeah. I've been an advocate of that because I think Matthews can play with Rob and me on his wing. He'd still score, the goals that he's getting. It's just because that's what makes him a generational talent.
Yeah.
The fact that Marner's getting the puck, hey, that's a bonus. But listen, Nylander's a pretty skilled guy too, and if you keep Hyman on that side with him, that's still a pretty good first line. And you have Tavares and Marner there. I don't care if you want to put Simmons there for protection. I really don't care. But those two even showed in the past that they can play. And now you have two dangerous scoring lines versus one amazing line and one line you're praying they're going to play well tonight. Like, that's the way I see it. So
yeah, I don't disagree. And I think when you get into a playoff series, that's how I'd like to see them roll it out in a playoff series. I think you have a way better chance of winning.
The one thing I'd love to add about Tavares is that I just think back to 4 months ago, he was the second best player in the playoffs. Maybe he's just kind of pacing himself. He's, I believe he's 30, 31. Maybe he's just if I was a Leaf fan, I'd kind of be hesitant to jump on him just because I think back to a few months ago, he was behind Matthews, the best player in that series against Columbus. So I'd rather have him play great come playoff time. If he plays poorly come playoff time, then you kind of look back and say, hey, now we can kind of give him a little bit up.
100%.
Right.
What worries me about him, though, is that he's always been a good forechecker and good along the boards. He's almost like Crosby light. I'm not saying he's as good as Crosby, but Crosby is just the world's greatest grinder. He's great along the boards. You can't get the puck off of him. And JT is similar in that respect. But I feel like when they've got the forecheck going, the puck kind of dies on his stick a little too much. I don't know if I'm just seeing that or imagining.
No. I think that's a very good way of putting it. That's a perfect way of putting it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And we're just not used to seeing that. So if I have a critique about JT's game, I want to see more of him carrying on that great forecheck that we're used to him seeing, winning board battles and creating stuff in the offensive zone when they've got the cycle going. So
can I ask again another hypothetical? Why doesn't he penalty kill? Are you telling me John Tavares is not smart enough to penalty kill? What happened to the theory of Keefe using Matthews and Tavares this year as penalty killers? Because I don't think there's enough on this team. They're not getting any better at it. And especially a guy as good as Tavares on the faceoffs, I don't see him taking defensive zone faceoffs either for penalty kill. I see Spezza. It's working. But what about your left-handed specialist? They're losing a lot of draws in their zone, and they're losing possession. You want to get him to earn his contract a little bit more? Play him in different positions. I'd like to see him kill because I think he could. Again, just another hypothetical. Why not?
I don't disagree with you at all. Yeah, you're coming with the good hypotheticals.
Yeah,
got the coach.
It's what I do. It's what I do.
All right, guys. I've got to want to bet for you guys. This is not so much
Yes.
Leaf related, but this is NHL related. Gary Bettman has been on record as saying that this North Division, the Canadian Division, whatever you want to call it, this is the only year it's going to happen. My hot take here is that I don't believe that. Do you want to bet that the North Division will continue to live on past this season? And my reason being is that the NHL just signed a large television contract with ESPN. The Canadian TV deal is up in a couple of years. How much is it worth to Sportsnet or TSN for the league to say to you, we're going to guarantee you a Canadian team in the Final Four?
So much. And that all you got to do is look at the television numbers this year and compare them to years gone by on the Rogers deal. And that's all you need to know. And so Gary might not like the idea about it because we all know Gary, he thinks like US first when it comes to the National Hockey League, which listen, fair, but like you better believe that the powers that be at Rogers and even at TSN with their regional broadcasts would be going to that table going, no. Like, obviously in a non-COVID world, you're not strictly going to play inside your division. However, the standings watching with the Canadian division is so much more interesting than it is with their regular division. That's my opinion.
Exactly. And if they want to even out the divisions, 8-8 and 8-8, just add Seattle to the North Division, and then you could build that rivalry with Vancouver.
Yep.
Right?
Agreed.
If border crossing is allowed at that time.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Right.
this is under the assumption that COVID is a thing of the past. It comes
They're all vaccinated.
Yeah.
fingers crossed.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know if it's gonna happen, but I can tell you as a Canuck fan, I'm sick of getting stomped by the Leafs. I want my California teams back because now's the time to get those California teams when they're all three of them are just kind of trash. I want those easy points back. I'm tired. Not even Ottawa's a gimme anymore.
Do you remember how tough that trip was? The
California
California.
hockey.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Listen, hockey. Not to mention, I don't think you could fly from San Jose to LA before, I believe. Didn't they have to drive from San Jose to down the coast?
I don't know.
Hold on, correct me if I'm wrong though. Didn't the Leafs shit the bed last year in California? They lost all 3 games out there, something like that.
I feel like
And
they
to
shit
all
the
bad
bed
teams?
every year. There.
Yeah.
It's like a yearly occurrence.
Yeah.
It seems like.
The hardest trip in hockey.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right.
For sure. Hardest trip to be a fan too. Like as a Canuck fan, I don't know how you do it. 10:00 games.
Yeah, I select.
Killer.
I'm very selective with which ones I watch and which ones I don't.
Yeah.
All right, strap in for this one because I've been waiting for this one. All right, this is my want to bet, okay?
Gotcha.
Now, I love the guy. I bought the jersey this year. He's always been one of my favorites, but I have to put this. I have to put my Leafs, affection ahead of my player affection, and I have to say this: do you want to bet by game 1? Let's say maybe game 2 of the first round. Joe Thornton is a healthy scratch.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's moving down the lineup.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if when I say want to bet, so either you, if you're against me, you say yeah, I'll take that bet. If you're with me, you say yeah, I agree. You know what I mean? Like that's how we do it, right, Joe?
Yeah, I'm gonna take that bet.
Okay, so meaning what? You think he's gonna be in the lineup?
Yeah, because I don't remember when Babcock scratched Spezza, what that did to that room.
Oh yeah.
A veteran guy. They all looked up to him. They all love him. I don't think that's a move you want to see happen that early in the playoffs. Maybe it happens later on in the playoffs. But even then, like that veteran leadership that he brings, and he keeps the guys loose, right? He's able to do that. So he might be on the 4th line, but I don't see him being out of the lineup.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you there. I'll take that bet too. Even though I love that concept, like I think that's a great. I thought that was gonna happen like at the start of the year when they named him at the first line, and I'm like, I think by game 20 he's gonna be down to the 3rd or 4th line, and he stayed up longer than I thought. But I agree with you. I don't think they're gonna take a shot at the morale that early in a playoff series in round 1. I think he stays in the lineup.
Yeah, I'll take that bet as well. I got one for you guys. I got a want to bet for you guys.
All right.
The starting number 1 goaltender for the Toronto Maple Leafs going into next season will be Jack Campbell.
Yes.
They're gonna let Freddie Anderson walk. They're not gonna find anyone on the market that they're willing to pay or give anything up for. And I think Dubas, given their history together, him and Campbell's history together, will roll the dice and see what Jack Campbell can do as a number 1 goalie for the team and in the league.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100% because there's 2 things that you learn about a general manager. 1, they want their own coach, and 2, they want their own goalie. And we have said since Anderson is not Dubas's guy, Lou trade for him. Lou signed him. He's been good up until this point, but I think this is his out. He doesn't have to trade Anderson. He can just respectfully walk away. And yes, I think Campbell's going to get the shot as the 1A. Maybe not the clear starter, but I think he does start at least game 1. And Dubas does find a guy that maybe a team doesn't want to lose to expansion in the draft. So it won't be just a guy. It'll just it could be a guy like Braden Holtby. Who knows? I'm just saying. Like there's a 1A 1B type guy. Could be I don't know Antti Ranta as an example. But I think history has now shown that you don't have to spend. Instead of spending $7 million on a goal, you can take that 7 and split it up. To a 1A 1B tandem. But yes. I definitely foresee Campbell as the guy next year.
I could totally see it happening, but it scares me a little because he's a band-aid. And how long is he going to stay healthy for? They better get someone else with him. I don't know. Maybe Big Save Dave. He plays great in Toronto. He could be the 1B.
Come on. What about Vida Villalainen?
Today he kept calling.
Close. Not even close.
Wall seems to be one of his guys. He kept calling him Joe Wall today.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And I was like, oh, he's one of your boys, isn't he?
See, I feel like I've gotten comfortable with Anderson. It's like I criticize him, but at the end of the day, I always kind of have a sense of comfort when he's in the net for some reason. Like thinking of taking a chance on Jack Campbell just scares me for some reason. Like it's just like I don't want to go back to James Reimer. Like I hated James Reimer. Like I hated Bernier. Like that whole stretch of goalies sucked. Like it was so bad. So it's like I'm so scared to like go back and take a chance on a goalie that just could be just totally crap.
You forgot the monster.
Yeah, exactly.
I fit that one.
Yes.
Jesus.
Like those string of tendies for like 15 years was just
J.S. Giguere.
Yeah.
It was
That's an
tough.
acquisition of Martin Gerber.
Yeah. And maybe being happy with Anderson's not a good thing, but it's like at least I've seen a playoff round with him in it. And it's like I never saw any of those guys in a playoff round other than Reimer giving up a 4-1 lead in Game 7 and a shortened season.
But what about Anderson giving up muffins in Game 7?
I know. That's why it's almost like a bad argument, but for some reason he just gives me like some security in that. I don't know why.
You're scared to venture into the unknown of what
I am. I'm scared of change.
Ryan and I like discussing this topic because one of the things we feel about our podcast is that we don't disagree enough. So that's why Freddie Anderson's a great topic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's awesome.
Nice.
All right.
All right, I'll do a quick bet.
All right.
Do you want to bet that that the Leafs find a way to get Zach Hyman on a hometown discount in the $4 million range?
Ooh.
I could see that happening totally because it's a flat cap. I hear all these stupid figures like he's going to get $7 million, and it's a flat cap again. If you look at his numbers compared to his comparables, it's around that area. I'm a little scared to give him like in that 7-year range though, because the way he plays, by year 7, his body may not be ready for that anymore. So I don't want to lose him. I'd give it to him if that's what it took. I could see it being around 4.5 over 7 years. And that's
I think if you're going to get him at that lower hometown discount figure, you got to give him the term.
That's the problem. Yeah, it's just one or the other. It's one or the other. I make this quick. I think his number starts with a 5 for me. I think that's fair.
I'm with Frankie. And how does he not look around that room and go, you got paid a lot, you got paid a lot, you got paid a lot? Now, I think he knows he's not as good as some of those guys, but I mean, he's the free agent here, right? Like he's got power. I think he gets 5 too.
If I was him, if I was his agent, I would sit down across the table from Dubas and I would open up like whatever, my iPad or whatever, and be like, game number 3, you move me to this line because they were struggling. Game number 10, you move me to that line because they were struggling. Game number 15, every single time there's drama with someone on this roster, you put me beside them to fix it. So give me my $5 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't even, to be honest with you though, I wouldn't even be shocked if they sign him even before the playoffs start.
No, like he because then they
doesn't seem like the guy. I think he absolutely loves playing here.
It's going to be the handshake deal, so they don't have to waste a protection spot for the expansion draft. Hush, hush, wink, wink. This is your contract. We'll sign you after the expansion draft. This way, we don't have to protect you. That's the play.
Maybe.
I don't have a want to bet, but we have another segment called Fu Real Fugazi, and I'd love to hear your guys' opinion. We talked about a lot of teams. We'll just do the Leafs.
Well, explain to them what it is.
Yeah.
First.
So basically, like, forget the record. Do you think this team is a championship team, or if they're not? So as currently constructed, the Leafs, Fu Real or a Fugazi? Are they fake?
Rye, you go first.
I'm gonna say Fugazi. I don't think they're a championship hockey team. I think deep down I don't believe they can get it done.
I'm gonna harken back to what you said earlier in the episode where you said good to very good, and that's why I'm gonna say Fugazi, because I think they're right there, but I think the goaltending and some of the depth is what will hold them back.
I'm with you guys. The only problem is, I think, like you said, Rob, that this path I think makes them a for real. Just because they're going to get in the Final Four, and then they have no like a hop, step, and a jump. Who knows what happens, right? You get to that's why I agree with you guys. They kind of remind me of Jimmy Fallon in Fever Pitch, where like he breaks, or Drew Barrymore breaks up with him, and she comes back, and he's like, hey, let's get back together. He's like, no. I like winter you. I don't like summer you. I like regular season Leafs. I don't know if I like playoff Leafs very much. I don't know if this is a team that's really built really well for the playoffs. I think they need a little bit more size, a little bit more grit. I think that's what I would be adding in the trade deadline.
Yeah. His name is Wayne Simmons. He's coming back.
I think they need another. I think they need another couple guys. Another, like, look at Tampa. Tampa added a few heavy guys, and that took them from a first round exit to Stanley Cup champion. I think they gotta. And I think call me crazy. I think the best thing for the Leafs this year is the Ottawa Senators, because they got to learn how to beat a team that's just going to take away inside ice like Columbus did to them, like in the playoffs. I think that's the best team. That's not going to run and gun. They know they're not going to outskill the Leafs. The Leafs have a top skill team. The teams that struggle are the teams that try to outskill them. I think the Ottawa Senators is a good gauge of this is what you're going to see come playoff time. We're going to play defensive hockey, and we're going to try and counterattack you. So,
yep.
Fair enough.